The Wesley Ridge wildfire of summer 2025 has impacted the non-operating railway line infrastructure above the north shore of Cameron Lake. This is a curvy, isolated single track on a steep mountain slope with a lake shore below and a mountain ridge above. The last train activity there was in early 2002, so over 23 years ago. During the years of inactivity, just like when it was operating, nature has always been pushing back against the railway, but usually with rock and landslides, windfall trees, and the deterioration of trestle decks and bents. This 2025 wildfire is another pushback, but much more dramatic and more significant. Here's a summary of the railway line's history. The railway above Cameron Lake is part of the 38-mile Port Alberni subdivision of the Esquimalt and Nanaimo Railway between Parksville and Port Alberni on Vancouver Island. That's on the west coast of British Columbia, Canada. At Parksville, it connected to the same railway's Victoria subdivision, which ran from Courtenay to Victoria, including Nanaimo. Construction of the Port Alberni subdivision was completed near the beginning of the Canadian Pacific ownership era in 1911. The subdivision became the main freight revenue generator for the entire E&N Railway. The subdivision was sold to Rail America in 1998, and train operations continued until early 2002. At that time, the only remaining customer was the paper mill in Port Alberni, which switched its transportation services to highway trucks in late 2001. In 2006, the entire E&N Railway was acquired by the Island Corridor Foundation, an entity owned by the various regional districts and First Nations along the corridor. The Foundation's purpose is to own and manage the former E&N corridor on Vancouver Island. Here's some trestle history. As originally constructed, there were 60 trestles and bridges on this subdivision, including 9 in the 4 miles above Cameron Lake. Many of those initial structures were replaced in the first 20 years of operations, usually by filled-in land, and that was typical for a new railway in that era. As of 1973, there were 19 trestles and bridges remaining on this subdivision, including 4 above Cameron Lake. Now, before the wildfire, 3 of the 4 Lakeview Trestles were already in poor shape, both for their decks and the supporting timber frame bents. Those trestles had many areas where the ties had disintegrated as a result of rot, likely hastened by motorized ATV activity chewing them up in recent years. This had left large gaps in the trestle decks. By the way, 2 of those Lakeview Trestles are very close to each other with just a narrow sliver of land separating them, and so they're sometimes referred to as one overall trestle. And that's why some people describe the Lakeview Trestles as 3, when technically there are 4. Now, as you may have guessed, trestle and bridge structures are my main area of interest on this railway. Here's a summary of the timeline eras on the subdivision, including above Cameron Lake. From 1911 to 2002, well, that's the train operating era. Between 2002 to 2016 is the volunteer maintenance and occasional speeder tour time during different periods in that time frame. Between 2016 and 2025, that's what I'm referring to as the dormant era. And 2025 onward is now the post-fire era in that part of the subdivision above Cameron Lake. So more about the Wesley Ridge wildfire. Now, my primary and most trusted information source for this is the website and news quotes from the BC Wildfire Service. The fire started in the early hours of July 31st, 2025, and the assumed cause is human activity, which in this context means anything other than lightning. Per the fire map history, the fire likely started near the lake shore and rapidly worked its way up the mountain slope northward, and also east and west along part of the lake, mainly impacting the slope above the eastern half of the lake shore. The fire perimeter eventually reached over the top of Wesley Ridge and impacted the north side, where there is a nearby community. As of August 10th, no structures in that community had been lost. All 4 of the railway trestles above the lake are within the perimeter of the fire's burn area as of August 10th. Keep in mind that not everything within this area has burned. It's just the outline showing the extent of the fire's activity and the boundaries of where it has reached. As of August 10th, here's what I'm concluding based on a news article from August 8, which quoted from a BC Wildfire Information Officer, and interpreted and supported by my own analysis of the BC Wildfire website burn maps and photos, and also from other people's photos. Now, the BC Wildfire Service says that 2 trestles have been lost completely. Now, this would include the twin trestles at mile 13.7 and 13.8. Those are the ones that are often referred to as one overall trestle, and that's near to where the fire likely started. The other lost trestle was at mile 14.0, and ironically was the best conditioned trestle before the fire. Now, this trestle burned on the first evening of the fire. I've seen photo evidence of this, with the creosote that had preserved the trestle now providing a thick plume of black smoke over a horizontal line of flames, right where the trestle was. The longest and most picturesque trestle is the one at mile 14.6, and the fire threatened it during the first few days of the fire, eventually coming very close and resulting in the trestle catching fire. This likely happened on August 2nd or 3rd. However, the fire in that trestle was put out, and a BC Wildfire website photo from August 4th shows the trestle outline still standing. A Coulson helicopter was instrumental in protecting this trestle. The BC Wildfire Service describes this in an August 8th news story as a 3rd trestle was compromised and was actively defended during the wildfire when the fire was down and active in that area. We are working to prevent any further damage to that trestle, but it is compromised. Now, regardless of the specific condition of the various trestles or former trestles post-fire, the landscape along the railway has been significantly changed, and this wildfire is likely a significant milepost in the historical timeline of this railway route. Danger trees and slope instability, even more than before, combined with many partly and fully burned creosote-treated timbers, likely make this corridor a dangerous place, which might require a proper cleanup of the residual and damaged railway infrastructure in that area. Now, this is just my own speculation. And so, this situation in summer 2025 is my motivation to produce this series of videos showing the 4 Lakeview Trestles as seen by me during the 12 hiking visits that I made to them between the years 2019 and 2025 in that railway dormant era. And I'll start that with the next video in this series. Thank you for watching this.